All right, let's get going. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Gardner. I'm the marketing director for Lion Training Products. And today I would like to welcome you to our webinar. This is about the escalation of training, and it's about tools, products, methodologies, and a general conversation regarding um, the fire safety industry, the fire service industry, and the occupational health and safety industry as it pertains to fire safety and firefighter training. Joining to us today, we have Dave Dukowitz, a category sales manager at Lion, an expert in training products and services, and David Sardinsky, who is the sales director for the occupational health and business side of Lion and Lion's training products. That being said, I think we'll jump right into our topic today, and we have a quick video we're going to watch, just about a minute long here, regarding what we're calling the new era or the new age of digital fire.
Let's go attack that fire. Get up in there, get up in there.
Lion and the fire service are ushering in a new era of digital fire, combining attack digital fire panels, SG4000 smoke generators, and containerized structures called training-ready units. As recruiting for the fire service becomes more difficult, and environmental and safety concerns surrounding Class A fires have made traditional training less practical, new technologies have been developed to allow the fire service to introduce new recruits to fire service concepts without the need to go on air. Even seasoned veterans see the value in using digital fire as a method to maximize training in decommissioned towers and buildings, as well as acquired structures where Class A fire is not an option. Having the ability to train in any location without the need to flow water is possible with digital nozzles and weighted hose lines, meaning conducting fire service training in schools, factories, churches, and airports where emergencies are likely to occur in fire department communities and neighborhoods brings a new level of reality to training, only possible with digital fire.
What we're here to talk about today specifically is the progression and trade-offs of the different technologies that are used in fire safety training and in the fire service. And we're going to start off by looking at what the fire safety education industry. Now, that's both for community engagement with the fire service industry, as well as training and teaching individuals and companies and organizations to comply with OSHA requirements, or to use fire extinguishers, or to understand and know about fire safety in the workplace. At the end of the day, it's about teaching civilians and professionals how to deal with or manage emergencies close to or around the incipient stage of a fire. And so what we have here, and where we're going to start, is at the bottom of this pyramid. And the reason that we start at the bottom is because it's about the tools that are available that give us the widest or broadest reach when it comes to the topic of fire safety. Dave Sardinsky, you have a lot of experience with people in the business and industry space who are trying to teach fire safety. And, help me understand what it is that they're looking for and why the digital tools at the base of this pyramid really meet the need.
Sure. So, at first and foremost, for the overarching theme of any training around fire, how do you properly use a fire extinguisher, is you want your employees or your trainees, your audience, to be able to quickly and effectively react in an emergency situation. Oh, I lost your slide, Matt. There you go. Now, what that typically happens is you have your audience in an office setting. Many of those folks have never experienced an emergency situation like that. So how do you build that muscle memory, build that reaction in a safe, repeatable manner, and what's the best approach to do that? So there's several different ways depending on what your objectives are to do that. But starting off at the bottom of the pyramid here with digital fire, that gives you quite a lot of options that historically haven't been available for conducting a live fire out in a parking lot, for example. So you're able to set up a digital type of scenario where obviously you don't have the heat of a real fire. However, depending on what your application is, you can set that up in an area where fire may be likely to occur, or an emergency situation might be likely to occur in a workspace, and be able to branch out from there, depending on how basic or involved you want that training to be. Many folks will start with just the proper pass technique for extinguisher training, but you can branch out from there. Little things as well about where's the nearest fire extinguisher, or where are you going to go find the fire alarm to alert your employees that there's an emergency in the building, things along those lines. The digital aspect to train anywhere in your facility, whatever that might look like, gives you many different options and many different scenarios that you can create based on how basic or advanced you want your training to be.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
yep. Go ahead,
Dave, kind of one of the things that I continuously hear, and I heard this in a recent interview I did with someone responsible for a large university in the United States, is he said, when we changed over from doing, Class A live fire burns, I thought to a digital fire type of concept or training, I thought that it wasn't going to work because there wasn't going to be the fear or the heat that was typically involved with that Class A fire. But what he really learned was that people were less afraid, so they actually got involved and did the training. So, it released people from the fear and allowed them to pick up the fire extinguisher and do what needed to be done in a more relaxed environment. And I'm curious, Dave Dukowitz, what else do you hear from people with regards to their transition from Class A to digital fire?
Yeah, that's the real big point, and that's something that Dave Zardinsky was hitting on, is that realism aspect, that aspect of realism, right? People are thinking that they're losing something when they move from Class A fire to digital training. You're not necessarily losing anything. You're actually adding to the realism. And the realism that you're able to add to is training in that environment. Dave was hitting the nail on the head. Where is the fire extinguisher in your facility? Where is a fire that's likely to occur? Let's build that muscle memory for that specific location. And not only, when I say location, not only facility, I'm talking about maybe that position on the manufacturing line, that one, point. What would that individual do? And what's the muscle memory? Where are the steps that they have to literally walk to find that digital extinguisher? So that's a lot that we're running into in the field, is people taking this idea and this concept of digital technology and really focusing it and narrowing it into the specifics for their facility, so they can help train and help their employees feel more comfortable with the reality of what may happen, a fire in an area in their location.
So on that point, and I want to, graduate up to Class B here, but I did have some, this was a conversation I was having, and they're okay with me sharing this, with Horry County in South Carolina. They're taking the digital bullseye system with fire extinguisher into elementary schools, and they take it into the cafeteria, and they're able to do training with kids that they never could have done before. And I think it's just, you open up to a broader audience as well when it comes to using digital tools. It's softer. It's definitely at the base of the pyramid of training, though, right? Because there's obviously a progression. I mean, the happy middle there is Class B, where you can take a gas-assisted prop and get some of the heat and the fear and the reality back, but keep all of the control that comes along with using a machine to do the training. And I, based on what you see in the field, Dave, percentage wise, how many people want that Class B technology as opposed to the digital fire? Would you say it's a even split, 60-40, 30-70?
Oh man, I got to tell you something. I'm seeing more overall people wanting to get in, if they're not doing any current training. They're looking to step in at the digital level, but work their way up. If I'm dealing with folks, or we're dealing with folks that are already doing some form of Class A, they may want to stay with a live fire aspect, but they see the value of bringing digital for that step up. So, I mean, it's tough to say one to the other, because there is a number of folks looking to expand with both and have multiple options. But it's going to depend upon the site and the location and the needs of the customer as well, depending upon what they're trying to do for fire service. So long story short, it's going to depend upon where we're at in that process. We may be adding in, starting at that digital fire, right? That digital environment, and trying to step up to live fire and utilize Class B as opposed to, a Class A environment where it is more controlled with that Class B. You do have more safety parameters. You do have that realism, but you're not fully I was about to say fully involved, right? But fully engaged with a Class A fire.
So, and at the top of the pyramid there with Class A fire, this is typically in the industry, going out into the parking lot, calling the fire department, getting out all the old about to expire fire extinguishers that you have in the building, and letting 3 to 5 people experience using a fire extinguisher. And I'm not disparaging Class A training, but we do have to acknowledge it's more difficult to execute upon. It makes it difficult if you have an organization with 4,000 people and you're trying to get all of them to have real hands-on training instead of just watching a video in the training room, because hands-on training is 75% more effective, proven fact, in helping people fight and deal with incipient stage fires. If you really want to do that training right, you've got to have everybody do it. And it is just very difficult to do in a Class A environment. So it's not that Class A is bad or wrong, because it has a place and it is the most realistic with regards to the heat and the fear that you can get. But it is, like I said, the most difficult. And that's probably a good segue to jump into the fire service side of this, or the fire brigade side of this, because there are organizations and companies that have their own fire brigades. Then obviously the fire service has to be able to train their people. Just real quickly, if we look at some of the tools that are available, I'm going to go back a slide. On the digital front, you have, smoke generators. There's the ITS system that you can find out about. I would urge anybody who's curious to go to the Lion website, look at these products. You have the Bullseye, you have the Ray Station. All of these are built around that digital and Class B environment. But when we get into the fire service, the same pyramid applies. And Dave, walk me through the way that you see digital fire and what the trade-offs are between, the top of the pyramid and the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when we start talking fire brigades or fire departments, live fire training. This is a critical aspect of training a firefighter, and it is necessary. And yeah, there's a concept of trade-offs, but the reality is what we're seeing in the field. Folks are, again, they're looking at this similar to what we were talking about in the last period. It's an escalating approach to training a firefighter. And the digital side, it's a low risk, low impact side, but you can master the muscle memory that's necessary. And it's going to depend upon what that muscle memory is, right? Maybe feeling the heat isn't the objective of the training. The objective is, let's focus on, I've been in environments where people have been focusing on the school in their community. So they want folks on the fire service side to learn, to want to be able to walk that facility with their eyes closed, because they may need to be doing that, but know exactly where they are so they can respond quicker in an environment if there's an issue at a school. So there's a lot that they can do to expand that out. And when it comes down to training maybe new recruits, there's a great story that's out there. Matt, I'm going to try to tee up, because I think you do a better job at telling the story than I do. But
let me I want to put it this way. Yeah. First off, I actually did I showed a gentleman who was the chief of a major metropolitan department the other day some of this digital technology. And before we went out to go look at the technology, he said, "Oh, fake fire." And he kind of chuckled on his voice. And I understand it. You know, people look at this and say, well, that's not the real thing. But when he got inside of and looked at the technology, he said, I see why this is an important part of it. The story that you're referring to, Dave, comes from a close person that we work with who early on in their career as a trainer brought a group of recruits in. They put them on SCBA and air, and they took them into a Class A environment. And one of the students wasn't prepared. And in the middle of the environment, ripped off their mask, inhaled the smoke and the chemicals, and they were taking him to the hospital. And it was a costly and difficult lesson for him to learn. And as his career went on, he had the opportunity to build a training center. And as he worked with Lion, he said, I'm going to start every new recruit on digital until I know they've mastered the basics. Then they move up to Class B because they need to feel and sense the heat. And at the top of their training, when they were ready, they moved into that Class A environment. And that was his escalating approach to training. And I've heard that reiterated over and over and over again. Dave Sardinsky, when it comes to the business and industry side of this, how do you see large scale industry, the oil and gas, chemical, how are they using these type of tools?
Well, in addition to being escalating approach, regardless of what type of training scenario or audience we're discussing, obviously digital for a new recruit or someone that is new to that type of training, it's the safest, most repeatable, easy way to replicate something in an unsafe environment in a safe manner. But even for your seasoned folks, your seasoned firefighters, your seasoned people that are going through training, it allows you more flexibility to train more frequently. And that's one of the major things, especially when we're working with the fire service. The digital and other options aside from Class A isn't meant to replace that training. It's meant to allow you to train in different ways and more frequently. Because at the end of the day, the more that you're reinforcing that muscle memory, maybe you're only able to do a live burn a couple times a year, but you could train once a month or every couple of weeks or so with the digital scenarios, things along those ways. But as far as some other customers outside of our first responder customers, where maybe you need to create a scenario like this that's a bit more advanced than when we're talking extinguisher training inside your facility. Same aspects apply to our digital attack panel, where you could set that up in an area where a fire may likely to occur, where you need to react not with a fire extinguisher, but with a hand line. So there's a number of different ways to simulate that, whether you can flow water or need to be a completely dry setup. It gives you that flexibility of, obviously you're not feeling the heat for that, but you can simulate a scenario and try to run through the exercises as many times as you need to in a safe environment.
Now, on that note, I just wanted to show some of the tools that we're actually talking about. Not everybody knows, but the attack digital fire panel, you can, using other tools like the Hyperfire, you can combine 9 of those panels together, create a massive wall of fire, and you can actually hit those panels with a hose line. You can flow water on them, or you can hit them with a laser. So I heard someone the other day say, we take these into our airport when the airport closes at night, and we practice running hoses in the airport through security and up into the food area, because you know what, that's probably going to be something we have to do someday, and we want to know how to do it. And that's really where the value is back there, being able to train anywhere and anyhow. I mean, you imagine if you were trying to train on an airplane. You don't want to be flowing water inside that airplane. You don't have to, but you can do firefighter training in that airplane. Kind of coming back to the Class B side of things, how much are you seeing Class B, Dave, used on the fire brigade side of the business?
I mean, it's the repeatability of the Class B. It's definitely one of the main reasons why folks are looking towards that. They want to have that same types of more challenging evolutions that you might get from a Class A. However, the Class B typically allow you to do more evolutions more frequently. So it really is about what you're trying to get out of your training and the tools to best fit that. So that's generally based on what a customer or what a department may be looking for as far as developing their training curriculum really guides them to where what type of fuel source they're looking for as far as training goes.
And I want to add here, and this is probably a good place to kind of stop and start taking questions, but I do want to just note that Lion doesn't favor one type of training over another. We make and have tools for every level of training, and we certainly don't discriminate against anyone. There are certainly people who they only want to do Class A training, and we respect that. That is the way in which they feel like they're doing the best job for the work they have to do and the people they have to train. However, this is a very interesting slide because it reflects the opinions of a widespread group that we did research with. And we asked them, we said, how are you doing training? What kind of environments and what type of training are you doing in those environments? And it was amazing to me that they said up to 75% of their training, and these are serious firefighter, fire service training groups, they're doing up to 75% of their training in digital environments, 10% in Class B environments, and 15% in Class A environments. And the reasons for that weren't 100% that they felt like digital fire was the best tool. Sometimes it's because they aren't allowed to use Class A fires anymore. Environmental concerns, emissions concerns, all of that comes into play. Even the difficulty of scheduling Class A training can be arduous in many communities. Or perhaps that fire tower that they had is now in the center of their population, whereas when they built it, 30 years ago, it was way out in the sticks. Just the encroachment of society has a big play. So I think we stop it there for today, you guys, and open it up to questions. I'm going to stop sharing our slides here and invite everybody in the audience to kind of ask questions if you have them.
Matt, a question I get asked a lot, and I just kind of want to put this to you guys because I just want to hear, and us talk this through, especially on the fire extinguisher side, right? How easy is it to start, even if it's just Class A training? How easy is it if we haven't been doing something already? How easy is it for me as someone that hasn't done extinguisher training before? How easy is it for me to get going and provide realistic and acceptable extinguisher training? Dave, you've probably been asked that question a lot. I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Yeah, and just as far as, you're talking your trainees of overcoming those, fears and objections around getting that type of training. You as a trainer, especially if it's not something where you have that type of background, you want to be able to be better prepared to provide, effective and repeatable training. And that's the beauty of a digital system. It's very easy to operate. I like to use the analogy that if you can operate a TV remote, you can create effective training on a system like this. It's very simple to use. And all of the turnkey features that are built in are there to help guide you as a trainer. Think less about conducting the training and spending more time on your trainees. So you've got your extinguishers, for example, that are timed and weighted accordingly. It's going to give your trainees that experience of what a real extinguisher might do or behave in that aspect, without you having to worry about how to operate things yourself too. So that's definitely something we hear a lot about, but it is something to puts people at ease fairly easy as well.
So a question that came from the group is, this came from Lewis Fanny. We have the Bullseye Fire Extinguisher Trainer. How easy is it to add the smoke generator? Dave?
Can I jump on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump? I mean, first of all, there's a lot of ease with systems. We just want to check with you, if you could maybe, we could have one of our folks reach out to you. We just want to make sure that the system you have is a more recent system that we can utilize. But something that's really important about the smoke that we've been talking about and we haven't covered just yet. First of all, it's a non-toxic water-based smoke. It's not going to leave a residue. There's no toxicity. We have the material safety data sheets for you as well, depending upon your location. But adding that smoke to this, it's unbelievably easy. You literally turn the two machines on next to each other. You allow them to link. Once they link, you have full control over that remote that controls the Bullseye system. It will run everything for you at that point. Dave, would you agree with me on the ease of adding that?
Yeah, the ease is literally having the two systems next to each other, they find each other. There's no pairing that you need to do manually or anything like that. There's no wires to connect or anything like that. And once they're paired, same functionality that you have for adjusting the volume up and down is the same for adjusting the smoke up and down. And it's as simple as that. Plus, you have the ability to use that independently as its own wireless portable smoke generator, not when it's in use with the system too. So we've had folks that'll use that to add smoke to a fire drill, as a scenario to, simulate a blocked, means of egress, things along those lines. Your imagination is the limit for that, but they are able to be used independently with one another as well.
Yeah.
So another question in the chat is kind of someone wanted to understand and know how the smoke and the digital panels work together to create a realistic environment. I have a couple of pictures up here. I took these without a mask on, just me sitting there with the camera. I mean, it looks realistic. When you put the smoke in a room with the digital attack panels and you take that room to near zero visibility, you almost can't tell in some cases where the fire is until you get close to it. And that is the way that it is in a real fire. And it is amazing to me how realistic and lifelike you can make those scenarios with full-on hose lines running in water hitting those panels. It's absolutely fantastic.
And the flexibility too, using the bullseye system, you don't have to create that as involved of environment. You're able to control if you want a few puffs of smoke, or if you want to get it to this level, you have that full flexibility and the control on that. That's a great option to have.
So I think that we're almost at our full time for today. We're happy to stay on and answer other questions, but we're going to prepare to kind of end it from here. I wanted to let people know we'll be doing another webinar on Tuesday of next week. This is a webinar that's in conjunction with Fire Engineering Magazine, and the topic is going to be community risk reduction, tools that can be used to engage with and inspire your community and with regards to fire safety. And our guests next week will be Chief Joseph Tanner and Mark Nugent from Horry County, South Carolina. I would be happy to send out an invitation to everybody who's on today's meeting. And if you can join us, we'd love to have you. That's, again, 1 o'clock Eastern this coming Tuesday. With that being said, I want to thank everyone who's been involved today for the questions you've asked. This has been an excellent discussion, and we'll continue to do these things to help keep our network of fire safety professionals in the loop about things they can do to make training better. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll stick on for a few more minutes to see if anybody has any questions, but we invite everybody that wants to go ahead and log off. Thank you.
So, while we're doing this, if maybe there's a question that, Lewis asked in addition, about the smoke, if that was going to activate a smoke detector. I was wondering if maybe this would be a good time for us to talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Yeah. It's going to depend upon the style of smoke detecting system that you have. If it's the traditional style that is sensing heat, it will not set that alarm off. But if it's a newer photosensitive style that's watching the environment, it could, it probably will turn that off depending upon the levels, or turn that on depending upon the levels. But those newer styles, what I've experienced in the field, traditionally, or some of those newer styles, they're able to disengage that room in general. So we would suggest, if you have one of those newer styles, that you just work to do that in your training environment.
We did have a hand up from Yanu Desalu. I'm going to go ahead and enable mic and camera if they choose to join, if they have a question. Yanu, is there something that you wanted to ask or question? You're more than welcome also to put that in the chat. We have a couple of other questions here. In the chat says the smoke will activate smoke detectors. That's a great question. And Dave, I think Sardinsky, you go ahead and touch on that if you will.
Yeah, same thing. As far as if you're going to be utilizing any type of training smoke in an indoor environment, we recommend that you would set, deactivate the alarms in that area, or set it to test mode, so you're not actually triggering the fire department to come, depending on how you have that set up. But yeah, so if you want to add that level of realism, just make sure that you take those precautions, whether it's in a office environment or a residential setting, whatever that may be, if you plan to use the training smoke with that.
All right, I'm going to look and see if there's any additional questions or Q&A. I don't see anything in the chat. I appreciate everybody, and let's go ahead and shut it down. Have a wonderful day.